The UFC Fight White House card has completely overshadowed the events of this past weekend's UFC 326. And we're going to unpack it all in this episode of the Aftermath Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, because we're a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most. We're live, baby. Yeah, man. Not going to lie, I'm feeling absolute shit today. So we're going to plow through this Aftermath Show as best we can, talking about the topics that you can see there on the right. We'll rate the White House card out of 10. We'll talk about John Jones's fallout with the UFC and Dana White. We'll talk about Oliveira's next big payday, which will probably be his next fight. I mean, I've got my thoughts on who I think he's going to fight next, and I'll be interested to find out who you think he will fight next. And then we'll talk about Chimaev versus Strickland rumours, which haven't exactly, which is what I read today, and I don't think it's kind of caught too much buzz, but I think there might be some legs behind that potential future matchup. So welcome on in, folks. Welcome on in. I want to hear your overall ratings for this past weekend's card as well. What did you think of it? Because we only had 4 finishes on it overall. The rest of them were decisions. Caught some of the prelims. Cody Garbrandt, I'm so glad that he got the win. I mean, the overall Paramount production or the UFC production was way behind schedule this past weekend, which was very, very strange and odd of them, I would say. I mean, they've been behind in the past, but not to that extent. So it was good to see Cody Garbrandt getting the win. I mean, he deserved it after all those groin shots that he took. I think that was the only. Oh, I think I saw a bit of Sumadaji's fight against Jesus Santos Aguilera, and that was probably about it, really. Overall, I thought the main card kind of sucked, really. The first 2 fights were fantastic, and then it really, really tailed off. So there's not going to be much that we'll talk about from the main card, but we've got lots and lots of news to dissect and go into it. So let's kick things off then. I mean, fight of the night was Drew Dober, Michael Johnson, wasn't it? Let's be real here. Let's be real. Everything's excellent on there. Lovely stuff. I'm just going to quickly grab this, get this up, and before we get into it. Yes, let's hear your thoughts in the chat. So kicking things off then, wrong one. Gregory Rodriguez extends his winning run to 3. 7 finishes in the UFC. He avenged his loss with that perfect counter straight right, which you can see there in the top image, against Bruno Ferreira. But who are we going to see him fight next, really? I think it's got to be Roman Dolidze for me. If he was to lose against Christian Leroy Duncan next weekend, Dolidze has never been knocked out, by the way, so I think that adds to the mix a little bit. Of course, he's got to get through CLD, who's a very technical striker, very good with his kicks. Dolidze should really win that fight, but I mean, I'm not cementing a pick just yet, but I think I don't know. CLD's got. I think if he wins, then maybe there's another fight or another option for him. With him kind of being new to the division, so I've not got him in there. As for Bruno Ferreira, though, I think he should fight Mikhail Oleksiejczuk next. Now, is Oleksiejczuk actually, just thinking about this? Is he went back up to middleweight? I think, didn't he? Let's have a look. Yeah, he did. Yeah, so he's coming off a win against Marc-Andre Barriault. So, and he's on a 3-fight win streak. Looks very impressive as of late. He beat Marc-Andre by decision, but it was a clear decision for him. There was no. I didn't think there was any any controversy in that one. But yeah, I think Bruno Ferreira, Oleksiejczuk makes sense. Give it Oleksiejczuk the shot at fighting somebody higher up. In terms of rankings-wise, we've got Gregory Rodriguez, who's gone up one spot above Paulo Costa, and he sits in there at number 12 now. So, yeah, I think Delize, you look at it here, Delize in at 11, one spot above him. Of course, if CLD wins, he goes above him. But if Delize doesn't win, then I wonder who's going to be next. Because maybe CLD could get someone like a Derrida, perhaps, maybe, you know, which we'll get into a little bit in a sec. Welcome on in, Vanish Deep Singh 69. Yo, did you see Ilya tweet? I have, actually. The one where he's bashing Makhachev. We're saving it till later. We got that part of the news section, my mate. Stick around. We've got lots to go through in the news section for sure. Like we'll rate the White House card. We'll talk about whatever Ilya said. We'll talk about John Jones's rant. We'll talk about Ronda Rousey's rant as well. So yeah, there's lots to go through. Good to see you, man. Wales is in the house. Salute, JK, mate. Listening on my drive home. Perfect. Love it. I love it when people tune in whilst they're on the drive home. Usually George Merry does as well at this time, which hopefully we get to see him pop into the chats as well. But yeah, so Gregory Rodriguez, I've got Roman Delize next for him. Should he beat Christian Leroy Duncan? As for Bruno Ferreira, I'm picking Oleksiejczuk. I mean, look, someone's surely going to get knocked out in that fight. So, and look, I'm going to try and pick fights which I think are going to cause chaos and going to cause finishes. So this is all we're running with tonight. Taking us back then to talk about the second fight on the main card. Drew Dober picking up his 16th career knockout against Michael Johnson. And the memes continue. The memes live on. And like part of me felt like he was very buddy-buddy with Michael Johnson during fight week, right? And I was like, do you know what? I feel like this could be a tentative bout, you know, with the memes that kind of tag along with Drew Dober as well. And like he sort of approached Michael Johnson, was like, look, this was not caused by me. This was the fans who done that. And I think it was all love. But he got the knockout win. And mate, it was good to see him get the win. Is he going to climb very high? Probably not. Are the UFC going to give him another fighter who likes to swang and bang like he does? Absolutely. He is racist. He's not though, but that's the thing. We had him on the channel. We had him for the live watch along in person when he visited London during the fight week of Volk versus Lopez, the first fight. And when you meet him, he's like far from it. He is like the biggest nerd you'll ever meet. Like he is such a Dungeons and Dragons type of guy. He doesn't suit the whole Giga Jihad look, and that was a great to bring the fight fans some insight as to what Drew is like as a person throughout the 4 or 5 hours that we were with him watching fights. It was fantastic. Morning, Breezy. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. I mean, look, I look and I feel as tired as I am in most mornings. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Maybe the Rona has got me, but we'll plow through this show nonetheless. Good to see you, man. For Drew Dober, then, I think what's pretty clear for him, we're going to take a look into the lightweight division. Some movements. Dan Hooker gone up. Gamrot has gone down one spot. Faziev has gone up, and Moicano has gone down one spot. So that's very weird. Maybe there's some movements happening. We know that Mateus Gamrot is going to be fighting Espadam Ribovics. Maybe Rafael Faziev is going to be fighting in the near future. Is he booked? No, Moicano's fighting Chris Duncan. Yeah, Faziev hasn't got a fight booked yet, has he? For Drew Dober, I'm going to give him Jalen Turner next, who kind of came back from hiatus to TKO Barbosa back in December. Look, you're probably like, JK, you're a racist here because you're giving Drew Dober another black guy. Yes, I am, but not for that reason. Not because I want to see Jalen Turner get knocked out. Generally because I feel like Jalen is outside of the rankings, so is Drew Dober, And I think Dober's been sort of just hanging out there quite some time now. And do you know what? I found it quite hard pairing Dober up with someone whilst looking through all the fighters earlier, because he's actually fought a hell of a lot of people already. Like, I was thinking, Bobby Green, great option. Alexander Hernandez would be a fantastic option. He's already fought both of them and finished both of them. So I'm like, right, okay, who can we give him just outside of the rankings? And Jalen Turner would be that kind of guy. As for Michael Johnson, he's 39 years old, but I wouldn't say that he should retire just yet, because I'm still kind of thrilled by his performance against Daniel Zerluba before the Dober fight. So I got two options for him. I would either give him Drakkar Klose, or I would give him Chris Padilla, who kind of deserves an experienced fighter next. And I think Michael Johnson is that guy. I think Chris Padilla is 6-0 or something. Is he 6-0 6-1 as a pro? No, 17 wins and 6 losses, but 6-0 in the UFC. Sorry. So yeah, why not give him someone with experience? He beat Ismail Bonfim in his last fight, and Bonfim's an up and coming killer as well. So I felt like, yeah, someone like Michael Johnson makes sense for him. That's a weird face-off, says Breezy. I don't know what you're referring to there. Oh, you're about Turner and Dober, perhaps? Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, welcome on in, folks. Smash that like button if you've not done so already. We're moving on then with the matchups. Drew Dober, Jalen Turner for me. Michael Johnson, either Drakkar Klose or Chris Padilla. Swiftly heading on to the third fight of the main card. Raul Rosas Jr. picking up the unanimous decision victory against Rob Font. Possibly the worst fight on the card. The dude can grapple, and Font showed solid submission defense, but it didn't make the most entertaining of fights. Let's be real. I mean, Font is difficult to finish. I think only one person has submitted Rob Font, if I'm right in saying. Who submitted Rob Font? Was it Aljamain Sterling? No, but no, it's Pedro Munoz, actually. Pedro Munoz guillotined him quite early on in his UFC career. So, yeah, I mean, look, Raul Rosas Jr., it's not like the best of performances to get you a raise in the rankings. Let's be real. I mean, but he's entered there now at number 13. Rob Font has slipped. Has he completely slipped out? I just need to get a better look at this on a bigger screen. Yeah, he has. He really has. That's crazy. Rob Font's downfall. That's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. I mean, so who would you give Raul Rosas Jr. then? Do you know what? This kind of changes my whole pickup now, because Farhad Basharat has moved in at 15, and I had Basharat against Rob Font as being a next potential fight. I mean, look, it could still happen, but does that now mean that Basharat's going to get somebody ranked next? Ooh. I don't know, man. Who do you guys think that Raul Rosas Jr. should fight next? Breezy said, thought Font started well with the low stance, walking him down, but it was clearly unnatural, and he ended up back in the normal and struggled thereafter. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Like, Raul Rosas Jr. has kind of like improved his wrestling. He did kind of find it hard to take Font down at times. His control on the ground looked slick. He took the back pretty well. I did feel like Font did well to deserve to defend submissions, but look, it was just one of those fights, wasn't it? You know, it was one of those fights. Wasn't great. Raul Rosas Jr., does he deserve to fight higher in the rankings? Probably not. Maybe the UFC will give him a Farhad Basharat, perhaps, who can actually grapple. But I actually picked Rob Font against Farhad Basharat, because Farhad Basharat at the time of making the fights wasn't in the rankings. He defeated Gene Massimento last month. Timing-wise, it makes sense, but isn't the most active of fighters on the roster, and that's kind of like a bit of a caveat. I think he's fought once a year in the last few years, which isn't great. My option for Raul Rosas Jr. that I've got written down was actually Marlon Vera. But I don't think that's probably going to happen. And Marlon Vera, let's be real, has been pretty dog shit as of late. He has. He's looked awful since his highlight reel knockout against Dominic Cruz. He's not really looked the same fighter. Okay, he beat Pedro Munoz, I think by decision in amongst there, but he lost against Corey Sanhagen was in there. He lost against Sean O'Malley, of course. Eamon Zahabi, David Martinez recently, Davison Figueiredo. Like, he's just not looked himself. He's not had that killer instinct, and that's kind of what I said heading into that Martinez fight. I felt he lacked. So yeah, like, you could probably give Raul Rosas Jr. for Basharat, or the winner of Montel Jackson against Ronnie Barcelos, which that fight is happening in April. That's quite some time away, actually. Ooh, yeah. So, I mean, Font could very well get somebody unranked or someone with a bit of experience. I wouldn't be surprised if he fights Ronnie Barcelos, because Ronnie Barcelos has been around the game for quite some time. Dude can grapple. Barcelos could do exactly the same to Rob Font as what Raul Rosas Jr. did. And I don't think fight fans are going to want to see that anymore. Yeah, it's not looking great for Rob Font in the UFC, I must admit. But yeah, those are two options that I've got. Raul Rosas Jr., Marlon Vera, and Rob Font for Basharat. That's what I'm locking in. So the co-main event, Carl Brahalio picking up the decision victory against Rafael dos Anjos. Rainier Derrida, nearly. Vanish Deep Singh says, from long time, main card fights are boring. They are mostly decisions or proper domination. And I'm looking forward for the White House card. But, yeah, I mean, look, I must admit, like, it seems like the margin of error in this sport is just so thin now. Everyone's on top of their game. I don't know. Is it a matter of every fighter just becoming very well-rounded and we're having less specialists in the game now, which is leading to less finishes perhaps on the main card? There's a lot more at stake being at the main card, of course. One fight can make you fall drastically, really. You're only as good as your last fight, as they like to say. I'm interested to get your thoughts, actually, on the overall main card of the White House card and how many finishes you actually think is going to be on it, because that's something that we said during the watch-along. Yeah, we'll take another look at it in a bit, and yeah, we'll try and decide. So yeah, get your comments in. Be interested to hear what you've got to say about that. But for Carl Brahalio then, who picked up the win against Rainier Derrida, he landed the more powerful strikes on the feet, which I felt won him rounds. Didn't let Derrida get any submission threatening positions at all. It's Brahalio's 9th fight in the UFC, and he won his 5th decision. Yeah, I always just feel like Brahalio's fights are just a bit meh, really. His UFC debut was kind of a bit like that. Then he went on a bit of a finishing spree when he beat like Paul Craig, etc. And it was like, oh, okay, this guy's finally getting comfortable with his hands, and he is. But I don't know. I felt like Derrida's performance wasn't particularly amazing. He was coming forward quite well. He slowed down in the 3rd round, and I feel like since that Brendan Allen loss, we've kind of all felt that, well, the Derrida just fell off quite drastically, really, and we're all expecting him to just crumble again. And I felt that Brahalio maybe could have upped up the pressure and tried to get him out of there, but I don't know. Derrida's an experienced vet in the world of MMA. He had a great run at ONE FC prior to coming into the UFC. So, yeah, we've got some fun matchups for these guys next. Ilya Islam thing should happen, mate. I'm with you on that fight of the decade. We were actually so close. I can't wait to get into how close we were with that. But the options that I'm going to give both of these guys next. For Carvalho, he's got to fight Anthony Hernandez. I think that's pretty clear. Movements at the top. Izzy's gone up to 4th. Carvalho in at 5th. Brendan Allen dropped. Why did Brendan Allen drop down 2? Anthony Hernandez has dropped down 1 as well. I mean, that's only because Izzy's fighting Joe Pyfer soon, and Joe Pyfer's jump when he knocks out Izzy is going to be insane. But yeah, more on that later on down the line. Yeah, Anthony Hernandez recently got beat down by Sean Strickland, and Carvalho's got good hands, good wrestling. Anthony Hernandez, great cardio, probably better cardio than Carvalho, and he brings that submission threat, which Dorito also brought. But I feel like Hernandez is way more athletic and has better physical attributes than Dorito. And better striking, in fact. So I feel like that's the reason why that fight makes a whole lot of sense and is so intriguing. But then you're also like, well, JK, why should Anthony Hernandez fight up? Well, the answer is there's a lot of guys in there with losses. Hernandez being one of them, Dorito being one of them, Robert Whittaker's being one of them, but he's moving up to light heavyweight. Jared Cannonier, he's disappeared off the face of the earth after losing to Michael Venom Page. Roman Dolidze coming off a loss, but might be able to get himself on the win column this weekend or next weekend against Christian Leroy Duncan. But, you know, for me, Rainier Dorito could get the winner of Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan because Dorito's in at 8 and the winner of that fight isn't climbing any higher than 10 for me. So that's the reason why I've got that fight in there. And Ardy, in my opinion, Dorito is capable of taking both of those guys down and picking up submission wins. I know Christian Leroy Duncan's quite a tall middleweight, but he's been taken down before. We will see if Roman Dolidze is going to be able to do that next weekend, or whether Christian Leroy Duncan's just going to pick him apart at range. So, yeah, I think that kind of makes a whole lot of sense, really. Brendan Allen, for me, he could fight Carvalho. Absolutely. But do we not want to see him fight? Is there any other options for him? Do we not want to see him fight Dricus du Plessis? Or is Imavov going to fight Dricus du Plessis? Because I've got a feeling that Imavov's going to get passed up on the title fight. I feel like Sean Strickland is going to be next because that's what the fight that fans want. And how the hell Bo Nickel always on the big cards, mate? Wrestling phenom. That's all I'm going to say. That's what he is, and they're trying to make him popular. They're trying to boost him up. They're trying to make him climb the division. But yeah, he's got a lot to prove. He's not really going out there and Chimaeving everybody like people was expecting. Because, you know, he's had close decision wins, like Paul Craig being an example, and Paul Craig's been finished by absolutely everyone recently. Yeah, now he's fighting a Carl Dalkus who has been looking great. I must admit, like he's looked slick on the ground. Bo should really steamroll through him because Bo's just more physical than him, I feel. So, and to put Bo on the White House card, just to try and be like, it was the UFC's way of being like, don't forget Bo Nickel here. You know, he's a wrestling phenom. You guys are into your wrestling. You should get on board with him. You should be a fan of this guy. That's literally what the UFC are doing. But, I mean, I'm disappointed that Colby Covington didn't jump in and fight him, if I'm honest. You know, kind of sucks. So, yeah, back to this co-main event. Bahalio, I'm giving him Anthony Hernandez next. And Dorito, I'm giving him the winner of Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Heading on back then, let's talk about the main event, the BMF title fight between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira picking up the decision victory, winning pretty much every single round, right? I mean, I had to duck off during round 5, I think it was. But yeah, 50-45 across the board. No surprise there, if I'm honest, because Charles Oliveira's wrestling ability was on point in that fight. which is scary for the rest of the division, right? You've got this guy who is one of the best, the best submission artist the UFC have ever seen, right? He leads the record in the number of submissions. His ground game is insane. Where he's lacked in previous fights has been against guys who can wrestle and just nullify that jiu-jitsu skills. But his wrestling is looking insane. And here's a fun fact for you. Nobody has taken Max Holloway down 5 times in a single fight. Nobody. The last person closest to that was Conor McGregor. He took him down 4 times in 2013. All that time ago. Yeah, you could say Max has not been fighting wrestlers in the featherweight division. No, he hasn't. But it's still an insane stat. 5 times Max was taken down by Charles Oliveira. So Charles Oliveira has upped his game, and he is wearing... Can you call it BMF gold? It's not really a BMF gold. It's just BMF shiny black, really, isn't it? BMF silver. He should really fight Conor McGregor next. Let's be real. Let's be real. It should be the next fight. I felt like the winner of this past weekend's main event was going to fight Conor. Because apparently the UFC shifted from McGregor versus Chandler. This is McGregor's words, right, that came out of the weekend. The UFC shifted from McGregor versus Chandler, and they shifted from McGregor versus Prates. Apparently they were contemplating giving McGregor Prates. But could this fight be the ideal path back for McGregor, giving him Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt? Because the BMF belt, it's not tied to rankings at all, really. I think it can be a fight at any weight, because it was at welterweight, right, originally, with Masvidal and Diaz. If the UFC wanted to make Charles Oliveira fight at welterweight for Conor McGregor, they will absolutely do it. And I feel like Oliveira's kind of wanted to fight McGregor for a long time. Here's the thing, though. If that fight happens at welterweight and McGregor wins, he's the BMF champion. But does he then have a case to fight for the lightweight belt? Does even McGregor want to make lightweight? A lot of questions, right? But who do you guys think would win that fight? Charles Oliveira or Conor McGregor? Now, Ash and I were talking about this during the watch-along this past weekend, and we felt that McGregor versus Holloway made much more sense and was much more exciting of a fight. And I agree. Oliveira, however, not confident Conor wins that fight. Conor should be underdog, because Charles Oliveira is looking slick at the moment. With that grappling as well, he subs Conor. He subs Conor around 2 or 3. If he survives the early onslaught on the feet, I think Conor, with his size, where he's packing at the moment, could do well with the takedown defense initially. But over time, as he starts to kind of slow down, Oliveira is going to get those takedowns. And I think he subs him. I do. Round 3 sub is my prediction. Round 3. Now, of course, this belt is tied to lightweight division. We saw that a second ago. Holloway, however, who do we want to give him next? After coming off a loss. For me, I think it's the only real one option. And look, we know the UFC have their favourites. Fighting Nerds being one of them. If they lose, they're still going to get a ranked opponent that's ranked higher than them. Paddy Pimblett just lost against Justin Gaethje. Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Justin Gaethje's now fighting for the undisputed title out on the White House card. So for that reason, Paddy Pimblett, you will fight Max Holloway. Pretty obvious, right? Both come off losses, but gives Paddy an opportunity to fix his wrestling game against a pure striker. It's a bit of a winnable fight for Paddy. Size as well. He's going to have the size advantage against Max. He can do to Holloway what Charles Oliveira just did. Easy. Vanish Deep Singh says, Diaz McGregor 3 and Arman Oliveira 2. Ooh. See, yeah. Do you reckon? Do you reckon the UFC are going to finally run the Diaz McGregor 3? I think it's run its course. I think that's long gone now. Like, it doesn't really bother me to see it. Do you really want to see it? Because for me, Diaz just doesn't turn up to fights anymore. Like, you can tell in his performances, he's not turning up to win, he's turning up to get paid. And there's a difference. Like, I think the ship has sailed with Diaz in the UFC. I really do. I mean, who's to say that McGregor can't fight out of his UFC contract and then fight Diaz down the line? But that's the thing, is the UFC are going to try and tie Conor down. I don't think they can, though. There's a lot of political things that are happening behind the scenes. Conor's ready. Conor just wants to fight anybody at this moment, but I feel like the UFC are holding him back because they want him to sign a new deal. And part of me, heading into this weekend, felt that they were saving the winner of the BMF title for Conor McGregor, which could still happen. But they've got to pay the man. And Conor was never going to be on the White House card. It never was going to happen. He didn't need to be on the White House card because the Conor McGregor card sells regardless. You don't want to put all your eggs into one basket with that one. I like Arman versus Oliveira too. I mean, like, the UFC are kind of like still in this process that they don't like Arman Tsarukyan and they're just kind of like, you know, punishing him in a way. But it makes sense. If you're not going to give Tsarukyan a title fight when he deserves it, he should fight Oliveira again. Rematch. 2 versus 3. Otherwise, who else are you going to give Arman Tsarukyan? You're going to give him Benoit Saint-Denis? Maybe? I don't know. All right, so that's all I've got. Charles Oliveira, it's got to be Conor McGregor. For Max Holloway, it's got to be Paddy the Baddy Pimlet. Let's head into the headlines now, shall we? Because there's a lot to talk about here. Thanks for your comments, guys. Hit that like button if you've not done so already. Let's review then the White House card, which got announced at the weekend. What did you guys think? Which is called UFC Freedom 250. That's such a cringy title. Just call it UFC White House, man. Come on. What's with the 250? Because, like, we're going to get to... like, we've had UFC 250... I don't know. It's just so weird for me. A lot of... and look, there is only going to be 6 fights. There might be a 7th according to Dana White, but that's all it's going to be. What would you rate this card out of 10? What would you give it? Because it's difficult, right? Usually on this channel, we give ratings to cards, just the main cards. But what would you give it? I kind of want to give it a 6. Or actually, no. It's too. I would give it a 7. Because I think to put like, the co-main and main are phenomenal. Are good. I mean, the co-main could be better. But you got Alex Pereira fighting for gold in his 3rd weight class in the division. He will be one of few people to have won a fight in 3 different weight divisions. Conor McGregor was one of them. But he also gets a chance at interim title gold. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. Sean O'Malley versus Eamon Zahabi sucks. Rufi versus Chandler, fun. Hell of a fun fight. Probably going to be a finish in that one. Nickel versus Daukaus. Someone's getting submitted. But again, not a fight that gets your dick hard. Lopez versus Garcia. Barn burner. Someone's going to die in that fight. Guaranteed. And Topuria Gaethje, I mean, I just feel like... I mean, we could be underestimating Gaethje. I saw Paddy Pimlet's video that was posted where he feel like Gaethje's going to beat Topuria. I mean, of course he's going to say that because it makes him feel better if Gaethje was to do that. But I feel like Topuria's going to chin him. I mean, Gaethje's tough to put away, let's be real, but he's been put away before, and I think Topuria knocks him out. I mean, what a run that would be for Ilia Topuria, though, right? You knock out Volk, knock out Holloway, knock out Oliveira, then knock out Gaethje. Like, woo! Damn! But yeah, overall, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Vanish Deep Singh says UFC 300 is better. I think it was. It was always going to be better, I feel, because of what they're trying to do. They're building a whole like arena on the White House lawn. That's going to cost a lot of money. If it's normal card, 10 out of 10, but the kind of OD promotion did then 6 out of 10. Yeah. I mean, what also didn't help was Donald Trump running his mouth off saying that there was going to be 7 to 8 title fights. There was never going to be 7 to 8 title fights. This guy just literally chats out his ass for a living. And in a way, just kind of damaged the card, really. Because that's people's expectations. If the president of the United States is saying it, it must be true. Like, come on, I never believed that. Because otherwise the UFC would be running on thin. They really would be. But does this card suck overall? What do you guys think? Some people think it does. I'm not sure. I mean, I'll give it benefit of the doubt. Like, O'Malley should be fighting Corey Sandhagen. Bo Nickal should be fighting Colby Covington. Lopez Garcia fight I'm fine with. Pereira should be fighting Jones in the main event. Let's be real. Topuria Gaethje, great, but would prefer Topuria Makhachev. I would. Which kind of brings us on to the next topic, really. I think that would be a solid 10 out of 10 if that was to happen. But of course, you know, to put Jones and Makhachev, Topuria all in the same card was going to be a big ask. I think it was you either have your headliner as Topuria versus Makhachev, or or you have Jones versus Pereira. Those were the options. So yeah, if I had to make changes, those were the changes. How many finishes though, guys? I think I said at the weekend I was expecting 4. Lopez Garcia guaranteed finish. Nickal versus Daukaus, surely someone's getting submitted. Rufi versus Chandler, got to be a finish in that one. O'Malley Zahabi's going to a decision. Pereira versus Garn, maybe a finish, but could go to a decision because they're both technical strikers. Does Pereira's power, can he knock out Garn? I don't know. I would go mental if we see it, but I'm not sure. So, and Topuria, I think he did Gaethje. So yeah, I'm going to say 4. 4, potentially 5 out of 6, which is pretty good actually. Which is pretty good. So you're probably like, well, JK, why would you give the whole card at such a low rating? I think it's just the overall excitement of the fights. We're not excited to see O'Malley versus Zahabi. We're not really. We're not excited to see Nickal versus Daukaus necessarily. So, and Pereira versus Garn is just a bit of a meh fight. So, yes, Toolbox Talk. Good evening, sir. How are we, mate? I'm terrific. I'm not too bad. I could be better. Bit tired, bit sleepy. But look, we got lots to get through. We got lots to get through. What are your thoughts on the White House card, George? What are your thoughts? What do you rate it out of 10? So now let's move on to talk about then the White House card and what fell through. He says Spurs are playing like Max Holloway ground game. Mate, what's the score? Because it was 4-0 after like 20 minutes. I know it was 4-1. You guys suck, man. Anyhow, yeah. What fight fell through? Because John Jones went on this massive rant, right? 5-1. God dear. You did well second half then, didn't you? What went wrong? Here's my run of events of what I think that went down. Actually, no. Let's read this first, and then I'll tell you guys what I felt went down. So John says, after all of Dana White's comments about him pulling out or whatnot, he says, "Hey everyone, I wanted to address Dana White's comments from this past weekend because the truth matters to me and the fans. Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight. Real negotiations. I even came down from my original number. And what was I offered in return? I was lowballed." Now, Dana didn't say that they weren't in negotiations. Dana said that the UFC were talking to John Jones about the White House card. But he didn't think that John would be fighting on the White House cards. And there's a big difference there. And I think that's John's not really kind of brought up on. He says, yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card. That doesn't make sense. Right. I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start today. I was preparing to be ready. I understand business deals fall through sometimes, but going out publicly and saying things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is disappointing, especially when as recently as Friday, UFC was calling me, trying to get me on the White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans who know what's up, bones out. So, the UFC are playing hard with John Jones. Here's what I think the running order of what happened, right, with everything. I think the UFC matchmakers were trying to set up Jones versus Pereira. Jones was offered a low number. Now, Ariel was saying that was probably around 15 million. Same as what Conor Ben was going to get at the Zuffa, right? And I feel like Dana was never confident in the deal, but matchmakers were confident a deal could be done. That's, I think, what's missing from this. From Dana saying stuff in the press conference and then what Hunter Campbell and Sean Shelby are doing behind the scenes. Two different things, right? Because, yes, Dana is running his mouth off and saying that, you know, he was never going to be on the White House card. Runs true. I don't think he was ever confident. I don't think he ever felt that a deal was going to get done. But the matchmakers wanted it to. Jones pulled out of the deal, that's what I think, because the offer was too low. I think Jones asked for 30 million. UFC wanted 15. Jones, according to his statement, said he brought down his offer. UFC said no. Neither party could come to an agreement, so the UFC had to move on. But this was all rushed within a week. They set this deadline up as like, right, during this pay-per-view event, we have to announce the fight card for the UFC White House. And then they did all of their negotiations and put the card together that same week. Like, what the fuck, man? Sort your stuff out. Because that is reason why fans aren't happy with what they're given. Because you guys, as soon as you announced the White House card, you guys were blowing us all up saying, like, you know, there's going to be 7 to 8 title fights. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be insane. The best matchups possible, right? And then we get something a lot lower. So, negotiations fell through. Then they asked Topuria if he would fight Makhachev. He accepted. But he also accepted Gaethje as an option should that get made. Makhachev turned down the fight because of a hand injury. Couldn't be done. Then the UFC called Justin Gaethje, and Topuria versus Gaethje was made. That's pretty much how I felt that things went down. And there's been so much come out of the media of like, who said this, who said that, when it happened. Because Gaethje came out in an interview and said, you know, he was told on Thursday he wasn't going to be on the White House card, and then Friday he gets the phone call. So it just comes to show. And then you got Dana White a power slap saying that, fight fell through. Did it really fall through though? If it was accepted initially, because according to Jones and Dana, the fight wasn't going to happen. So nothing was concrete. It makes no sense. Gotta be Islam, as he recently announced an injury. Also, Islam denied and say Ilya ducked. I know there's some kind of back and forth with that. I try and get it up because Islam Makhachev. Yeah, so Topuria put a tweet out that said, once again, Islam comes up with an excuse. This time it's an injury. I always knew I would be part of the White House event. Well, Dana said he wasn't originally going to be until Jones and Pereira didn't come to fruition. But hey ho. Even when the UFC told me at one point that they wouldn't count on me for the event, I think he meant to say he would count on them. I knew it was part of the negotiations when they finally told me. Told me it'll be the White House card. They mentioned Islam, and I didn't hesitate for a second to accept the fight. Even though the fight hadn't been officially confirmed yet, the White House card was going to be announced the next day. And when I woke, I found out that Islam had gotten injured. So it was pretty clear that Topuria only found out he was fighting on the White House card the day before it was going to be announced. So they spent a lot of time negotiating with John Jones. That's pretty clear. Then I woke up and found out that Islam got a hand injury. And then Justin Gaethje appeared. Once again, someone else who will pay for Islam's escape. Both of their managers is a bit. It's also ugly as hell. Justin, see you at the White House. I'm not someone who humiliates people. It will be quick. When you wake up, everything will be over. And then Islam replied to that saying, we both know who chickened out here. You can cover your cowardice with nasty tweets, but don't worry, one day you will get what you asked for, and your fat as ass manager don't have to ask for billions to fight me. We'll do it for free. So clearly there were some negotiations there about Islam and Topuria before last week, clearly. So I mean, I still want to see that fight, I really do. Wales says Dana said last year he couldn't trust Jones in big events after what he's put them through in the past. Absolutely. So Dana definitely didn't want Jones to fight at the White House. Yet I feel like it's a Hunter Campbell and Sean Shelby thing. They clearly wanted Jones to fight, and there's like some unrest between the head honchos here. That's what I feel anyway. There's no way that Dana would kind of like be game to see Jones return at the White House and then publicly say that he wasn't. Like, come on now. Toolbox Talk says, but why can he simply return against Alex, a striker, and not Tom, all-rounder? That isn't legacy, that's pick fighting. Like his run at light heavyweight, out of prime / wrong weight class opponents, or easy pickings such as this Chimaev over Tom. Jones' legacy is like McGregor, bringing more eyes to the sport. Their time has passed, and stop living on it like 2003 Arsenal team. Wow. True say, man. True say. Like, I mean, it was clearly obvious what Jones wanted to do. Like, he knows that he could beat Pereira, and Pereira is a bigger name than Tom. So, I mean, look, when you reach that point in your career and you've been on top for so long and no one's barely been able to kind of, well, I mean, people have come close to beating him, but no one had beaten him for so long, then I guess he has some say on who he wants to fight. GSP kind of did exactly the same thing. After the 14th of June, what's next for Ilya? Well, that's it, yeah. That is right. I mean, Arman Sarukian could be in the mix after June. Surely Topuria Makhachev has to happen at some point. I thought this would be the year that we see it, but it's probably a lot less likely now, right? You could start. He'll rest and come back for MSG card, and that'll be Islam fight. So George reckons that'll be sort of MSG card November. I don't know. I think I'm hoping that Tom Aspinall returns that time. Hopefully we get the all clear that Tom can start kind of training and getting back to his best again. But let's move on then. Let's move on to talk about The third thing, which was actually quite surprising, is Tom Aspinall defending John Jones, which I thought was very, very surprising. He said to Ariel Helwani, "This is probably going to sound crazy to a lot of people listening, but why is the UFC not giving Jones the respect he deserves financially? That's crazy to me. If anyone should be getting paid a lot in this sport, it should be John Jones. Rightly so. He's a big draw and been on top of his game and champion for years. For the stuff he's done," and that's me saying that, "if anybody should be getting money in this sport, it's John Jones." We're talking about Conor McGregor and John Jones. Those are the guys who've brought in revenue for over 10 years. They need to be getting paid what they deserve. I mean, look, I can get it from a fighter's perspective and I can get it from a promoter's perspective. The UFC are trying to do things that have not been done before, but it requires them spending a hell of a lot of money to put on. Like the Sphere card, prime example. Like the amount of graphics and like the digital stuff that all went on during that event, they needed to pay for all of that. You know, it's not like your usual event inside of an arena. And at the same time, I think in a way, what's kind of burnt the UFC with this is not moving to stadium events at the right time. I think we're past that now. But if they would have started moving into stadiums like after COVID, right? So COVID brought so many new fight fans to the sport, right? Because it was the only sport one of the only sports that was running, okay? And you had McGregor fighting at the same time. After COVID was almost peak UFC. Okay, maybe not in terms of like eras, but in terms of like the current era, because to me, it depends when you fell in love with the sport. To me, peak UFC was like when GSP and Anderson Silva were around, but still, or when Conor was on the come up, you know. But that peak era was just after COVID, and I feel like we should have been going into stadium events, but they held back on it because they prefer the overall acoustics to an arena. The shots sound better, the atmosphere's better, which I kind of get. But at the same time, could you not generate more revenue if you were to put on, and more gate if you were to put most fights or just pay-per-views in a stadium? You know, and I get there's weather and all that, but boxing have done it. MMA can do it. You know? I don't know. What do you guys think? How can Arman keep doing grappling matches and not fight in the UFC? I think it's kind of bizarre, isn't it? He's now fighting Chimaev. Islam maybe in October against Gary or Spider-Man. Probably Gary, though. Let's be real. Gary's training for it. He's 100% right. There's been rumours they want to do one at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. For real? Bruh. Mate, make it happen. Max attendance is like 50,000 in Australia. Michigan Stadium is 102,000 seats, and imagine another couple of hundred on the pitch. And look, you don't even need to like make ticket prices go stupidly crazy. This is the problem. Is like fight fans are so priced out at the moment, and arenas aren't selling out. I guarantee you that next weekend's card at the O2 Arena isn't going to be a complete sellout. People who are buying tickets in the rafters are getting upgraded. Like that's what happened in the last fight night, and I feel like if you put stadium card on, make those rafter seats a lot cheaper, they can balance it out. It's madness, and they can actually pay fighters. But I guess you can only do pay-per-views in stadiums, really, can't you? You can't do fight nights. It's just not going to work. I'm surely the UFC, I just feel like, need to really have a long, hard think about themselves and what's going on after what's coming out and the shifts that is currently happening in this year, which is crazy because I thought the UFC, I was saying in the last Aftermath show, you know, this White House card, it's making every other promotion kind of want to copy them in a way, you know, and do something like a spectacle, because Usyk's fighting at the Pyramids or some whatever it is. Ronda Rousey's returning against Gina Carano. You know, you've got all of these people that are making movements now because the UFC suddenly decided they were going to do an event at the White House card. Cheapest UFC London ticket is 250 quid. Exactly. Yes, Samarok. It's the company, TKO. They've priced up all tickets. They've done the same for WWE. It is, and it's true, because it moves on to the next thing that we're going to talk about was Ronda Rousey's rant. You know, she was saying Ngannou versus Lins joins Rousey versus Carano on Netflix. How's that for a Banff Laden double headliner? That's what happens when you put fighters and fans ahead of shareholders at most valuable promotions. P.S. UFC's White House card sucks. And she even came out in the press conference literally hours ago for the Netflix fight that she's got against Gina Carano, saying that even Dana White knows that the UFC fight card sucks at the White House. And then Francis Ngannou was then chiming in on the back of that and was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not a part of that now. And so is it just coming down to just there's too many cooks now? There's too many shareholders, too many people wanting a piece of the puzzle, and things have kind of fallen through a little bit for the UFC. And I think Ariel Helwani was kind of insinuating that if they carry on going the way that they're going, or it might have been Eddie Hearn, then other people are going to catch up. And then suddenly, because they're priding on young fighters and their dream to be in the UFC. Like, that's what's bringing people. I mean, they're still far better than PFL. PFL aren't going to catch up. We all thought that at one particular moment, but they're definitely not. Because the UFC marketing machine is far better than PFL's. But when you've got other promotions, like Eddie Hearn is dipping his toe into MMA now, and the whole like Netflix shift that's going to go down. Are they going to be putting on more MMA events perhaps? Do they have more leverage than the PFL? Maybe. Could they buy out the PFL? Potentially. Who knows? I mean, you know, there's going to be some scary things that happen, but I think it's time for... Is it time for TKO to sell the UFC? I mean, they've not had it that long. Are they damaging the sport of MMA? Potentially. At the moment, the way I feel like it, if I look back this past year, something's just not right. Something's just not been quite right with the sport. And yeah, they're trying to put on shows, trying to put on spectacles, and some things just haven't been right. I must admit, I don't know if anyone else has been feeling it. Top of the UF02 will be 235, still over 60% available. Wow. That is rough, really, isn't it? That is rough. Okay, moving on, because I've got to wrap this thing up. Last thing I want to talk about is potential Chimaev versus Strickland rumours. Maybe that's going to be the fight that's next. I think it is. Now, Adam Zubayev is a Russian sports journalist who's close to Chimaev's camp. Tweeted, whoever is managing Sean's schedule needs to cancel all his podcast recordings after May 9th because you can't talk into a mic with a wired shut jaw. Interesting. Now, fans are speculating that the middleweight title fight will be on the line at UFC 328 on the 8th of May in Newark, New Jersey, where Wales is from. So, do you guys think that's going to happen? Now, Jorge Masvidal, on a side note, said on his podcast or whatever that he would be dumping a house on Sean Strickland to win that fight, and he doesn't think that Chimaev will have a good performance against him because they've trained a lot together. That could be an element to it. Could it be a dull fight? Maybe. Is that the fight that you guys want to see? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the chat. Or do you think that Imavov should be fighting for the belt? Arguably, he should be because of his recent run. But at the same time, Sean Strickland has a win over Nasruddin Imavov. And I feel like the fans would rather see Strickland versus Chimaev. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a great fight. Can Strickland beat Chimaev? Potentially. Is he going to walk him down and just put hands on him and stuff takedowns? Maybe. Or will we see Strickland get controlled on the ground the same way that we saw Chimaev control Dricus du Plessis? I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. Toolbox Talk says, I just looked, and for a fight night, max price should be 300 for good seats. It's not a pay-per-view. I know, that's what's madness. They've given us title fights the past 2 years, 3 in a row in New York. Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Yeah, man. You guys been getting good card over there. So I'm sure you'll be heading over to that one. Welcome on in, KSM91, who says, what's next for Arman? Bro is really not getting anything. No, the UFC don't want him. I mean, we talked about earlier about potentially rematching Charles Oliveira because it kind of makes a bit of sense. If not, then he will probably fight Benoit Saint-Denis. I'd like to see him run it back against Oliveira because that was a close fight. Some felt that Oliveira won it. But Arman deserves to fight for the belt. I just don't think the UFC are going to give him that opportunity just yet. Maybe one more fight, and then hopefully we will see him fight for a belt. Maybe we'll see him fight for the vacant lightweight belt if Ilia Topuria was to move up to fight Islam Makhachev for the welterweight belt, which could happen either at the end of this year or the start of next year. Hopefully. So we'll see, man. Lots to get through. All right, let's head on back then. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. That was, we've had a good chat. We've had a good chat tonight. And smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. And subscribe if you're new to the channel, because this is a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most. And we talk about all the interesting topics that come out of the world of the mixed martial arts. And make sure you've got the notifications bell rang on our channel, because we'll be live this weekend for yet another fight night as Josh Emmett takes on Kevin Valios in the featherweight division. We've got a fun card lined up for sure in the main card. So make sure you stick around. Much earlier time as well. I believe it's going to be 12 a.m. here in the UK. So check your local listings for this card, and don't forget to join us for the live watch long. All right, amazing stuff, guys. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll speak soon. Bye bye.